Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the first ever edition of Cajun Hikes. Today, I'm going to be giving you an introduction to the channel. So this is probably going to be the longest I ever talk in any particular video, but I thought it was important today to just share with you a little bit about myself, what's led me to starting this channel, the type of hikes you can expect to see moving forward on here, and more importantly, what specific trails I'm going to attempt to cover over the next few months. So let me just go ahead and dive in a little bit about myself. My name is Brian Kreisel. I am a lifelong resident of Lafayette, Louisiana. And for those of you who are not familiar with the area, if you're from other parts, Lafayette's located in South Louisiana, about halfway in between Houston and New Orleans. And is considered to be the heart of Cajun country, which lends to the name Cajun Hikes. And I've been hiking now for about 15 years, but I've basically been a day hiker. I've always just simply enjoyed driving to some local trails and hiking for the day, turning around and going home. And just in the last few years, I found myself becoming more and more interested in getting involved deeper into hiking. I noticed the last few years when I would complete a day hike, I was not so joyful about driving home the same day. It made me realize I need to challenge myself a little bit more, expand my horizons a little bit more, and look into doing some more section hikes, weekend backpacking trips, and so forth. So, like many of you out there, I started watching a lot of videos on YouTube and started to learn more about different types of trails in other parts of the country. And along the way, I came across a local volunteer who has been working on trail development in the Lafayette area. He had come up with a potential system of trails, and I became very interested in that project. So I reached out to him and told him I'd be willing to help. And the idea was I could come up with a specific trail that would serve as the main artery of the system that he had in mind. That way, once we had that established, we could then go ahead and start creating some other trails that would link up to the main trail. So I started working on that, and it's funny how things like this evolve, but I started with going from point A to point B. Then I started looking at it further and thinking, well, wait a minute, why don't we get from point B to point C, and then point C to point D, and so forth. And before too long, I started looking at the whole state and recognized the fact that the state itself could utilize a statewide trail. And along the way, I was watching videos of trails in Louisiana as well. And for those of you who keep up with hiking in Louisiana on channels such as these, you're probably familiar with Louisiana Hikes. It was hosted by a gentleman by the name of Heber. And after I had created a potential trail for the entire state, about 2 years ago, Eric had posted a video on his YouTube channel talking about a statewide trail that he was trying to create. And turns out it was something that is pretty much already existing trails and a little different from what we're working on. But he had talked about how he had come up with a potential trail that would be primarily in Kisatchie National Forest. And for those of you not familiar with the area, Kisatchie is located in the central and northern part of Louisiana. And while he was talking about it, he had actually mentioned the fact that Louisiana was only one of 3 states that do not have a statewide trail. And you could tell that it was aggravating for him. Someone who is an avid hiker and not being able to get on a lengthy trail in his own state is frustrating. And so after watching that video, I thought, well, let me try to reach out to him and let him know what I'm working on. And so I did. And he got back with me a few days later, and he was super excited about the idea. So from that point on is when I started working on presenting this to the public. And over the next 12 months or so, I presented it to my local Rotary Club, then other Rotary clubs and other elected officials across the state, including the Lieutenant Governor of our state, who has officially supported our state trail project. And for those of you that are not familiar with Louisiana that much, the Lieutenant Governor's main responsibility is tourism. So that was a huge win for us. But I have to say that it really started with Eric and his enthusiasm and support that gave me the encouragement to go out and present this with total confidence. And so as time went on and we started getting more support from people, we decided to go ahead and form an official trail association called the Bayou State Trail Association. And I'm going to talk about it from time to time on this channel, but for the most part, if you want to know more about the project, it's going to be the Bayou State Trail, and it's going to be through the Bayou State Trail Association, just like you see other organizations manage long distance trails like Appalachian, Pacific Crest, Ouachita, and so forth. But if you want to learn more about the project, we're just in the phase now where we're starting to promote it publicly. And so you can find us on Facebook under Bayou State Trail Association. And within the next few weeks, we're actually going to go live with our website as well. So we'll definitely announce that on Facebook once that time comes around. But Eric had actually been a supporter from day one with the project. And when we had decided back in November of last year that we were going to form some official bylaws for the Trail Association, he contacted me that morning for the meeting of, and I'm thinking he's just going to get on Zoom for this call because he lives in Baton Rouge and I live in Lafayette, and it's not far, we're only an hour apart, but I know he had a busy schedule. So that morning when he contacted me, I figured, well, I'll see you on Zoom when the meeting starts. And he says, oh no, I'm coming. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to go for, but I'm coming. He says, I'm going to have my fiance, Angel, and my daughter, Lena, with me, but I want to be there for a little while at least. So looking back, I was really glad to know that he participated in some fashion as an official founder of the Bayou State Trail Association. I highly encourage you to go and check out his channel. It's called Louisiana Hikes, and he also has louisianahikes.com. And one thing you'll realize, and I realized it quick when I discovered his channel, he basically became the face of hiking in Louisiana. No one else was covering trails in a video format like Eric. Within about a 7-year time frame, he had over 60 videos that he recorded, and except for a few exceptions, just about all of them were various hikes in Louisiana. And so I really started to look up to him more as a hiker, and as we got to know each other more and we started to become friends towards the end of last year, I really wanted to go hiking with him. We were really excited about the progress we were making with the trail project. But, you know, at the end of the day, and he and I talked about this a few times, you know, there's a lot of work that's involved in developing a trail, and you cannot lose focus on the actual reason behind it all. And it's hiking, it's enjoying hiking. And so we wanted to be able to spend that time focused on the project, but also developing, you know, relationships. And so we were going to get together at the end of last year. Went ahead and planned out a couple of trips, and he couldn't make it. And then in January, he reached out to me and he told me, he says, look, that long distance trail I created for Kisatchie, I'm going to hike the whole thing over a 10-day period. And I'd like for you to come pick me up one of those days so I can go resupply. And then we had also talked about me going out with them for at least one day hiking. And so that was the plan. But as we all know, life comes our way, and sometimes things are just unavoidable and it changes things. And so we weren't able to get together. He wasn't able to do the hike when he planned on it. So he had told me that he was just going to go ahead and wait till sometime later on in the spring to get out there and do it. So I talked to him by text a couple more times. Last text I got from him was in late March. And then I get some very disturbing news from his fiance in early April that Eric had just passed away. And definitely unexpected. I was shocked, like many of you out there who have followed Eric, and it was definitely a huge loss for the hiking community. It was definitely a huge loss for his daughter, Lena, his fiance, Angel, and Lena's mother, Jackie. And so definitely I would like for you all to keep his immediate family and remaining family and all of his close friends in your thoughts and prayers over the next several months, because it does take time to get over something like this. But I had a chance to talk to Angel's fiance quite a bit, and one of the things that really touched me was the fact that she made it a point to let me know what had happened, because Eric had apparently looked up to me for what I was doing on this trail project. He was very excited about what we were doing, and it brought a lot of joy to his life, which was very, warming to know. But at the same time, very heartbreaking at the moment to know that here's a guy who loved to hike. He had now shared the same dream I had about developing a statewide hiking trail for Louisiana, and he wouldn't have the opportunity to see it come to fruition and be able to experience it. And so one of my first thoughts at the time was, well, you already were determined to make this trail become a reality. Now it just took that level of resolve a whole new level. And a few days later, after my wife and I attended his funeral service, just seeing all the people go up there one at a time and talk about Eric and the impact he had on them. There was a side of him I hadn't even got to know, how much he helped so many people that were in very difficult times in their life. And they were in very dark places. And what was really fascinating and what really touched me was the fact that a lot of the people that he helped get out of a dark place, he turned them to hiking. And hiking made a big difference for them. So it tells you the power of hiking what it can do for you. For those of you out there that have done a lot of hiking, you know what I'm talking about. It definitely re-energizes you mentally, physically, and spiritually. I know that when I'm out on trail, I feel like I'm closer to God when I'm on trail. You know, everyone has different type of spiritual beliefs. You know, I believe in the Almighty, and I feel more connected with Him when I'm out. And in this day and age, with all the things that go on all the time, we need to be able to check out sometimes and reconnect with nature. And so after attending that and reading a lot of the comments that people were making online after his passing, the common denominator was there was a huge void. People wondering, what now? Eric was the person that really promoted hiking in Louisiana. What now? So I decided that I was going to go ahead and start recording videos myself starting this fall. I had thought about the idea a couple of years ago. I actually went out and recorded a few short videos to practice with it, and at the time I told Eric I was thinking about doing one and thinking about calling it Cajun Hikes. I told him, I said, look, you've got the name for the state, Louisiana Hikes, so being I'm from Lafayette, I might as well go with Cajun Hikes. And he thought it was pretty cool. But I had tabled it, but now is the time for me to start doing this. And you know, I'm not looking to become the face of hiking for Louisiana. I mean, you know, Eric was the dean of that, and I think it's just a matter of just trying to help fill that void in some way that's left behind. And I hope other people go out and do the same thing. Anyone out there that's watching this that lives in Louisiana, you know, go for it. You know, the more we can promote hiking in Louisiana, the better. As you all know, we do have some nice trails across the state. A lot of them are short. I mean, we do have a couple of them that are in that 15, 20, 25 mile range, but most of them are very short, which is why we're working on the Bayou State Trail, so we can have something in that 200, 300 plus mile range. But, you know, I think that this is going to be something that can help carry on Eric's legacy in some fashion. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit more about the type of videos I'm going to record. And I definitely am going to be more along the lines of what Eric did. You know, there was two things that Eric always brought up in his videos, and it was showing the trail and sharing the experience. And that's really what I want to be able to do here, is to go out and point out different things on the trail that I feel are important, share some experiences along the way that might be similar experiences that you may gather from it. And also too, you know, I want to be able to share experiences for potentially other people as well that may not be as avid of hikers, but they may want to go out and at least walk a couple of miles, or maybe they don't want to walk at all, but they may want to hang out at the campground if there's a campground, and be able to spend the weekend out there with anyone else that's hiking. So I really want to promote more of the potential experience that many people could have on these type of trails. So from time to time, you might hear me point out other things that may not be things that traditionally would be pointed out in hiking videos, but I want to make sure that people are aware of these things, so that in case you do want to bring other people out with you and they may not be all that interested in doing an entire hike for an entire day or whatever, that it doesn't, you know, block out the possibility of bringing them along with you. So anyways, but I think that you'll probably like the videos, hopefully you will, that Eric recorded, because it's going to be very similar if you have followed Louisiana Hikes over the years. And so I'm definitely going to keep in that tradition of covering a lot of single path trails that are in Louisiana. And of course, just like him, from time to time, I'll probably step out of the state and go on some hikes in neighboring states. Just like many of you out there that have hiked a long time, I have a bucket list too that I want to fulfill at some point, where I'll probably go on some well-known trails, at least hike some sections over the years. But I'm going to cover those. There's still plenty out there that Eric never had the opportunity to cover. And so I'm going to more than likely cover some things that he's done in the past too, because some of them I want to be able to hike as well. But I am looking at some things that are going to be unique, that haven't been covered yet. And then of course the exciting part is that there are more trails that are being developed. Not only what we're working on with the Bayou State Trail, as we're now starting to get some sections approved, but you know, these multi-purpose trails, nature trails, it's starting to become finally more of a priority here in Louisiana. So as I've got an opportunity to talk to a lot of people over the last year or so, there's gonna be more trails that are gonna be developing over the next few years. So there's gonna be plenty to cover in Louisiana for sure. And so I'm looking forward to doing all that. And one thing though that will be a little different is, even though it's gonna be primarily your traditional single path trails, I'm gonna get into a little bit of the area of multi-purpose trails as well. My wife is an owner of a provider agency where they provide services for people with mental and physical disabilities, where they go into the homes and it allows those people to live in dignity and be able to still live within the confines of their own homes. So over the years, I've had an opportunity to get to know a lot of these people, and I definitely want to make sure that when I go out on trails, I go and find other types that are more multi-purpose, that are handicapped accessible as well. I feel it's very important not to leave those people behind, and it all ties back into the experience. It's not just about the experience for us, the typical hiker, but it's also the experience for other people that we'd like to bring along the way. So you're going to see a wide variety, and I think that this is what I'm trying to achieve with this channel. Hopefully I get to do it, in the fact that not only do I want to be able to show some traditional trails that more of the traditional / hardcore hiker would like to see, but I also want to be able to show videos to people that might be 1 foot in, 1 foot out in hiking, maybe somewhat interested, not sure if they want to hike or not, or not sure how much they want to get into it. And again, for the people that normally would not fall into the category of hiking, we want to give them that experience as well. So that's very important to me. So for those of you that are more of the hardcore type, just bear with me sometimes on some of those videos, but there are plenty of those around as well. So in time, I'm going to start covering the ones we have in the state, and maybe some other ones in neighboring states also. So now, the most important part is, what do I have planned over the next few months? Well, I'm hoping that it cools off pretty soon. We're in late September, like I mentioned earlier. As you can see behind me, everything's still very green, and it's going to probably be like that for at least another month. But normally hiking season in Louisiana is generally from October through April, sometimes into May, but October on the front end and April on the back end are wild card months. It really depends upon, in October, how quickly things start to cool down, and in April, how quickly things start to warm up. And you know, some people, they'll hike in 90-degree weather. I'm not one of them. I'll just tell you that right now. I will hike when it is cooler. I'm not going to hike when it's hot. I don't want to deal with all the bugs. I don't want to deal with all the reptiles, and I don't want to deal with all this humidity. So once things start to cool down a little bit, I'm going to start hiking a lot more. Now, the first hike that I definitely have scheduled, that is carved in stone, no matter if it's going to be hot or cool is on October the 8th, which is just in 2 weeks, I'm going to be going up to Kisatchie National Forest, and I'm going to be hiking the Backbone Trail, which is a very popular trail in Louisiana. It is actually by far one of the nicest trails, and it's being sponsored by, or shall I say, organized by the Louisiana Hiking Club. And I want to stop for a minute and recognize them. Eric was actually a member of that for a long time. He was actually a former vice president. And if you want to learn more about hiking in Louisiana, that's the place to go. I mean, I can answer a few things. You're welcome to drop in some comments and questions. But for the most part, you have a lot of people that have been in hiking for a very, very, very long time that are in the Louisiana Hiking Club. And so I would suggest you check them out. They have dues that are only $10 a year. So if you live in Louisiana and you're not a part of that, I would highly suggest you do it. But they organize hikes every second Saturday of the month. So this one is in dedication to Eric. So we're going to be up there on October the 8th. Now, what I plan on doing is not only hiking the Backbone Trail, which is 7.5 miles, but another 1.5 miles to the Coyote Camp. And that is actually going to be the next thing I want to bring up real quick about trails, is the fact that I want to eventually hike the entire trail that Eric had come up with for Kisatchie. And he had actually emailed me his itinerary of what he planned on doing back in January. And it was broken down into days. And so I'm going to eventually hike it pretty much the way he planned on doing it. And that's going to be day one, which was what he had in mind. And that was going to be from the Caroline Dorman Backbone Trailhead to Coyote Camp. So that's going to be on October the 8th. And then hopefully, like I said a minute ago, things start cooling down sooner rather than later. But I'm going to go out to Lake Charles, which is in southwest Louisiana. And there's a trail that I hiked several times that was actually one of my favorites, and it's inside of Sam Houston Jones State Park. Now, unfortunately, that area was damaged severely from Hurricane Laura back in 2020, but they just reopened the park earlier this year. The trail's open. So I want to go back out there and feature that. And then over the next couple of months, I'm going to spend a lot of time more in my neck of the woods. There's a few of them in the Lafayette area that I want to cover. One of them you wouldn't even think would have a, quote, trail, unquote, but it's down in Avery Island at Jungle Gardens, which is adjacent to the Tabasco factory. And it's pretty cool. I was looking at some of the pictures of that, and I'm really looking forward to going out there. It's about a 3-mile loop, and they actually have one of those apps that you can download where you can actually walk around and play the audio, and it serves as a guide. So it's more of a touristy type of trail, but it looks pretty cool. So I'm going to go do that. I'm also going to go back out to the Chaffalaya Basin, and I had started, when I was experimenting with trail videos, I recorded a few sections of the Chaffalaya Basin Wilderness Trail, and that is about a 50-mile trail that's on the levee on the west side of the Chaffalaya Basin. So it's closer to Lafayette than the Baton Rouge side. And so I'm going to go back out and finish that final section. Once that's done, I can go ahead and put all 4 of them together and just complete it all into one video that I'm going to end up publishing. And then nearby there is Lake Fossey Point State Park. And there is a combination of trails there. It's about 5 miles. So I'm going to end up doing that as well. And then come back over here. I know in early December, I've got the hiking club coming, and I'll show you. You probably wonder where I'm at. I'm at Acadiana Park here in Lafayette. And behind me, right here, is a brand new bridge that was built by the city of Lafayette. And it's really nice. And it really changes your potential path that you want to follow. There's been a couple people that have covered this. Eric covered it, of course, about 3 or 4 years ago. But I'm going to come back out here and bring the hiking club, and we're going to go through this thing. And since this bridge was built, it definitely allows you to get a lot of miles in, but do it in a different way. So since this is only a few minutes from my house, I'll probably come to this trail more than anywhere else. I'm going to come back out and record this one as well. And then as we get closer to the end of the year, I'm looking to get my first real backpacking trip in for a weekend. I'm thinking about going to Chico State Park, which is another very popular place to go. It's about 45 minutes north of here, and there's an 18-mile loop that goes around the lake. And so I want to go do that, go do an overnight backpack for that, day one, and then day two, finish the entire trail. Because during the holidays, in between Christmas and New Year's, and I don't know if I'm able to do this every year or not, but I'm definitely going to give it a shot starting this year. I want to be able to take time off during that time frame and go on some longer hikes, you know, go on a 3-4 day hike, because it's kind of hard for me to take several days off at a time, being that I'm a small business owner. So I'm looking to do a holiday hike, and I'm looking at 2 different things right now. One, I wouldn't mind going out to Texas and covering the first couple of sections of the Lone Star hiking trail. It's about 100 miles or slightly under. North, it starts over west of Huntsville, Texas, and it goes across about an hour and a half north of Houston, to be exact. But if that doesn't work out, I'm probably going to go back to Kisatchie and cover additional sections of Eric's Kisatchie loop trail that he had come up with. And that's also on his website as well if you want to go take a look at it. But I'm going to do that instead if the Lone Star hiking trail idea doesn't work out. So I've got a few things lined up. There'll probably be a couple of more if the weather gets cooler and I don't have too many things going on all my weekends, and try to get those in before the end of the year. But I do have several in mind that I want to cover after the first of the year. And so what I'll end up doing is I'm going to see what I can accomplish before the end of this year. Then I'll provide more of a mid-season update, what the plan's going to be starting in January and through March and hopefully April. But I'm really excited about doing this. You know, the circumstances that led me to starting this channel weren't so great, but I think that with everything I talked about earlier, and also I think it just keeps me a little level. With working on developing a statewide trail is obviously no small task, and I do have a lot of great people helping me out with it, but it's going to be tedious, it's going to be cumbersome as we continue to work on trying to get this thing done. And I think this kind of keeps me in check, keeps me energized for why I'm doing it. And so I really am looking forward to sharing all this with you all. And so we will definitely see how this goes. But I want to thank everyone for checking me out today. And if you want to check me out on different social platforms, I'm going to have them listed at the end of this video. And thanks for watching today. And I look forward to seeing you again soon on a Louisiana trail.